It's time to watch some football. This weekend, we get our first big game with Florida State and Georgia Tech. And week 0, there's a few other games, but that's the headliner. You got game day out in Dublin. I am pumped for this season. We're going to discuss my top 25. We're going to go from 25 to 12. I'll explain that. Then we're going to pull up the 12 team playoff bracket, and we're going to fill in that bracket to show you the rest of my top 25. Okay, the reason I'm going to go from 25 to 12, remember, technically the 12th ranked team will not get in. Maybe not even the 11th ranked team might get in because you have automatic bids. There's some Big 12 teams that are going to have to make a run to get up into that top 12. And I didn't rank any of the mid-majors, who I consider mid-majors, a group of 5, because I just don't know enough yet. But that's how I'm going to do my top 25. Okay, so here's my 25 to 12. I broke them up in 3 groups, and I'll explain that as I go. So the first 4 teams, 25 through 22, I consider these really good teams. Look, if you're in the top 25 in college football, you have a very solid football team. But at the moment, I just don't know if you have enough to get even up into my bubble group or into my contender group to get into the college football playoff. And that's why I have them kind of in this first group. At 25, I have Texas A&M. You know, they got rid of Jimbo Fisher. They brought in Elko. He is a great coach. I mean, Jimbo had tons of great talent coming in. He had top 10, top 15, even a number 1 recruiting class, and he just couldn't get over the hump against your Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, whoever was on that side, LSU for sure. Can Elko push them over that mountain that they've been trying to get to and get into the playoff? Number 24, Arizona, another coaching change. Their coach, Jed, went up to Washington. Arizona got a new one, but they still have Fafita as a quarterback. They were a surprise team last year, and they could still make a decent run in the Big 12. We really don't know what's going to happen in that Big 12. There's a lot of good teams, but we don't know who's going to take control. Speaking of another Big 12 team that's a good, solid team, is Kansas State at 23. I actually think Arizona has more of a shot of going up the ladder than I do Kansas State. I think Kansas State's just going to kind of hang around in this area, and I just don't think they're a playoff team. At 22, we have Iowa, and I put this in there. Man, the Hawkeyes have been so anemic on the offensive side of the football. Last year, they were carried by their defense, and even a punter. And if you've been watching Hard Knocks, they've been doing a good job of covering him and his story, the kid from Australia. And I mean, seriously, he was flipping the field so much for Iowa last year to help. I mean, how many times did their defense win them a game because their offense couldn't do anything? Is that going to change this year? I don't know, but there's a lot of good teams joining the Big Ten, so it's going to be even harder for them to climb up and get into maybe the bubble group or even become a contender. I just don't think they're there yet. So my next group, I know bubble teams are usually the teams that are right on the edge of getting into a playoff. But for me, these are the bubble team that's trying to become a contender because I think some of these others are contenders to get into the playoff. These have a little more work. So at 21, NC State, they completely rebuilt their offense through the portal. They're pulling off what many colleges are doing right now. They're hitting the portal as much as the recruiting trail, and they might just make a run for the ACC. Moving up to 20, we have the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, the question you see here, that sums up Kansas right now. Can Jalen stay healthy? If he stays healthy, a lot of experts think they're going to win the Big 12. They might have a shot. If he doesn't, I just don't think so. I'll be honest with you. Even if he stays completely healthy, I'm not sure Kansas is better than some of the other Big 12 schools, especially like Utah and some others that I may talk about. Going to 19, we have the Oklahoma Sooners. Brent Venables, as you see here, he's got to win. Can he, though? He lost Dylan Gabriel to Oregon. We know he's a defensive mastermind, But can he get enough offense and get his defense settled in and play as good as an offense? I just don't think they're there yet either. And that's why I have them as a bubble team. Now, this is one of my bubble teams that I think can move up a little bit, and that's the USC Trojans. Man, I really like Miller Moss. You saw what he did in the bowl game last year. He's actually one of my top three Heisman picks. He's actually number three. I think he's underrated, and this could be Lincoln Riley's next Heisman winner. God, he's helped produce three of the last seven. If not this year, I think he will be a huge contender next year, but I still like him enough that he's in my top three. So there are my bubble teams. Let's go to contenders that can make it into the playoff. We'll start at number 17, the Tennessee Volunteers. Their highly recruited quarterback, Nico, will be the deciding factor on how far they can go. I probably have them ranked a little low, but Heupel's got to show me that he can take this team to the next level. He was close 2 years ago until Hooker got hurt. Can they make a run? I don't know. I think there's just too many SEC teams. At 16, we have the Miami Hurricanes. Man, Cam Ward came from Washington State. I think they got one of the best running backs in Damian Martinez. He's coming from Oregon State. Those two transfers could lead Miami into the playoff. I honestly think they could possibly be one of those teams that can make it in. At number 15, I have Penn State. Aller, hype again. Can Aller do it? He's highly recruited. I'm just not a believer of Penn State. I went to the Peach Bowl game last year and watched them play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss just dominated both sets of the line. I just don't have faith in the Penn State. Every year they get beat by Michigan and Ohio State. Until they start beating some of these teams, a lot of people have them in the top 10. I just don't. I don't believe in this team. At 17, we have the Utah Utes. Cam Rising is coming back. He is very beloved in Utah. Kyle Whittingham is a very good coach. He's a likable guy. I like a lot of what he says. He brings a lot to Utah, and I actually wish this team a lot of luck. At number 13, it's LSU. Man, they have that loaded defense, but it's up to Nussmeier what that quarterback can do. In like many of the other coaches and teams here, can Brian Kelly actually get into the playoff and make some waves? He couldn't do it at Notre Dame. He hasn't showed it yet in LSU. I don't think he can. It's kind of like a Penn State and Tennessee type thing. That's why I have them here. This is why I pulled them out of the top 10. I don't believe in these teams because I don't believe in their coaches. I don't think Brian Kelly, I don't think Penn State, I don't think Heupel in Tennessee. I just don't believe that they can make that or take that next step. I just don't. And then lastly, it's the Clemson Tigers, and we're going to find out really early about how good this team is next week when they play Georgia. But Dabo, man, adjust, bro. Come on. Like, I really like Dabo, but embrace the portal. It's not going away. NIL is not going away. I know you want the old school back. If the old school was back, Nick Saban would still be at Alabama. It's not going to change. All I'm going to say is adjust, Dabo. Adjust. Okay, let's fill this bracket out. Let's do 12 through 1. So at number 12, man, you could insert any mid-major. I'm going to insert Liberty. I don't know yet. This is one of the hardest ones. I just don't know who's going to come out of the group of 5, but we're going to throw Liberty in there. Now we're going to start with the others. So Oklahoma State is going to fall in at number 11. They might be a 15 to 22 ranked team, but I think they're going to win the Big 12 because I think they have the best running back in the country, and they have the other pieces that can maybe fight their way through that Big 12 that just has, 5 or 6 teams that could easily make the playoff. So at number 11, I have Oklahoma State. At number 10, I have Notre Dame. I want to say one thing about Notre Dame. Join the ACC. Okay. Number 9, Missouri. Let Brady cook. Brady Cook is going to lead this team into the playoff. It's going to be one of the many SEC teams that will make it into the playoff. At number 8, we have the Michigan Wolverines in the NCAA. They're freaking idiots, man. How stupid are they looking at about what they just did with Harbaugh? Harbaugh went to the I almost said San Diego Chargers. He went to the LA Chargers to become the head coach. They suspended him for like 4 years. If he comes back, he can't play it. He can't coach a year. It's so stupid, man. The NCAA, good lord, please change them. Go watch my videos on how I changed college football and that. But that defense is still very talented, and I still think they're one of the best Big Ten schools, and that's why I have them at number 8. At number 7, I have the Florida State Seminoles. They have DJ coming from Oregon State. You know, he was at Clemson for a little bit. I think they have the best shot of winning the ACC. We'll find out this weekend how good they are. I mean, Norvell is a hell of a coach. And, you know, I picked them not to make the playoff last year because of what happened to their quarterback, Jordan. But they still have probably the best shot and still the favorite of the ACC. Going to number 6, we have Ole Miss. And, man, Lane was working that portal to death. It was good to see. He's embracing it unlike Dabo. And he has built a really good team. If you heard Saban talk about this team, the one thing they needed to do was beef up their offensive line and defensive line. Lane went and did that. Watch out for Ole Miss. Jackson Dart's a very good quarterback. Watch out for Ole Miss. They can make some waves in the playoff. At number 5, I have the Texas Longhorns. Oh man, I love this team. I think can be a great team. They did lose 2 of their best running backs, but they're still loaded. Running backs have become a little easier to replace than they have been in the past, and they're going to make some noise in the SEC. A lot of noise. So the SEC better be ready. And hey, look, I'm a big Georgia fan. I'm part of the SEC, and they're going to come in and make our conference even stronger. At number 4, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide. Milroe, he's just a stud, man. Watch out. He's my number 2 Heisman pick. I have Miller Moss at 3, and then I have Milroe at 2. He can get it done, and this team, DeBoer, I think, was a great replacement for Saban. It's hard to replace someone that is considered the GOAT, which I consider him the GOAT. Saban's a hell of a freaking football coach. DeBoer is going to keep this team rolling. Now for number 3, and all my buddies and fans don't get upset because I got the Georgia Bulldogs at number 3. Man, I'm really worried about our secondary. We're going to find out next week. I'm just a little scared. Like, I think it's our weakest point, and now that you're in a passing league with all these great quarterbacks, we're just going to have to score a lot of points. Carson Beck has as good a chance as anybody of winning the Heisman, especially with that 72% completion rate, which is pretty insane. And I really hope he does. I just didn't pick him right now because I want to see how the team develops. Later on, it's going to change throughout the season on who I think is doing better. Plus, you're going to see how they play. So it's a little easier to pick. But right now, I know they're ranked 1 right now, but with that secondary, we're going to have to see. I have them at 3 right now. Oh, at number 2. Oh, man. I hate this team. The Ohio State Buckeyes are at number 2. God, they went out and got Chip Kelly as an OC. They did great in the portal. They got Caleb Downs, who is probably the best safety in the nation. We were really hoping he would come back home to Georgia. Here's the kicker on Ohio State. Howard, the quarterback. I I don't know. I've said this a lot in all of this top 25. The quarterback means so much to a football team. Is Howard going to be able to lead this team to where they need to be? And where they need to be is beating Michigan and going to a national championship. They might not even win the national championship, but at least getting there would be the next step for Day. And gracious alive, they have the best running back tandem in the nation. They already had Trayvon Henderson, who I think is a great running back. They also added Quinshawn Judkins from Ole Miss, who is a bruiser of a running back. Ohio State is just loaded. Now Day doesn't have to worry about the offense because Chip Kelly is that mastermind doing it. That's why I have him at 2. Actually, I think Chip Kelly is almost as important as what Howard's going to do. And I think he's the reason they're going to do better. So I have him at number 2. So that leaves the number 1 team in the nation for me at week 0. And that's going to be your Oregon Ducks because my Heisman winner, Dylan Gabriel, is playing for that team. Dan Lanning continues to rise. This team has a very good defense. They have a lot of weapons for Dylan Gabriel, and I think he's going to make that step to possibly win the Heisman Trophy. So let's look at this real quick. I'll start at the top. The number 1 seed would be Oregon. They would play the winner of Michigan and Missouri, move down. We're just putting Liberty there. So the winner of Liberty and Texas would go on to play Alabama. On the other side at the top, you have Georgia waiting on the winner of Oklahoma State and Ole Miss. Down at the bottom right of the bracket, you have Notre Dame. Notre Dame, join the ACC. I'm just going to say it one more time. Join the ACC. Just do it. Do it. You pieces of... Anyway, Notre Dame would play FSU, and that winner would go on to play the Buckeyes of Ohio State. So there it is. There's my first 12-team playoff prediction. We'll see, because the best thing is we get to sit back and watch all of this great football. And it starts this weekend. Good luck to Florida State and Georgia Tech. I will end, as always, thank you for listening to Spider Red. Tell somebody you love them. Later.